Tucker was seen in a live talking about Rubina. Someone asked him if they're like still friendly with each other.
Whatever she would, I don't even care.
What up, everybody? Wanted to wrap up my week, at least for my non-soap opera videos for the week, with a little Big Brother gossip video. I haven't touched upon the fact that a couple days ago, Paul was spotted with Vince, which means that Vince was actually spotted out in the wild and not just with his ex-girlfriend Kelsey or his girlfriend Kelsey. I think it's ex at this point. But it's interesting that he was spotted in the wild with Paul, because for weeks and weeks and weeks, Morgan and Paul have been hanging out every single week, as we've been talking about here on this channel. And so it just makes me wonder the mystery of it all, how Morgan and Vince have allegedly not talked since the season ended. But now Vince is hanging out with the person that Morgan has hung out the most, in Paul. Now, we also know that Paul was one of Vince's favorite players coming in. And we know that Vince is one of the other people besides Morgan that lives in LA, although I think Ashley just moved there, and maybe Amy lives around there too. But Vince being in LA, it's maybe not that much of a coincidence that he's meeting up with Paul. But I still question it. And my question is it because Morgan and Vince have actually been talking the whole time? Is that why he posted that YouTube video of kind of apologizing to Kelsey, kind of seeming like he and Kelsey are taking a break? Was that his way of coming out into the public for the first time since the show ended to take his lashings for what he did to Kelsey by going into the game in a relationship, and then having that super platonic relationship with Morgan where they were all over each other for weeks, if not a month? Or maybe they really weren't talking since the season ended, and maybe Paul is now the middleman in trying to fix the communication breakdown that has transpired between Vince and Morgan. I do think one of those two scenarios is most likely. And I guess we'll see where this develops. I have not seen that Morgan and Paul have hung out so far this week, but the weekend is to come, and it's Halloween weekend, so it's very much possible. Or maybe Morgan was actually there that night that Paul and Vince were together. I will also say I find it odd, though, that when Vince first got out of the house, all this paparazzi was following him and Kelsey, which is why I still suspect he might have called the paparazzi on himself, because nobody ever follows people from Big Brother like this, like they were following Vince spotted in the wild. And now that he's with Paul, no paparazzi there. I guess I would think that if Morgan and Vince were actually out in public together, someone would catch that picture, right? So that alone makes me believe that they haven't actually hung out in public together. So I don't think Morgan was there the other night with Paul. But very interesting developments that the first person that Vince is spotted with in public is Paul, who has been with Morgan every single week. Very strange. And also with Paul involved, wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at a throuple scenario right here. Kidding about that. Speaking of relationships in the Big Brother universe, though, going back to Big Brother 26, and something that a lot of you brought up to me like a month ago, and then I talked about it in one of my lives about the Big Brother aftermath, was this Tikor and Tucker development, that they were suddenly living together. And a lot of people found this odd because, of course, Tucker and Rubina just broke up earlier this year. And so they were getting a lot of flack that if they're a relationship, that's such a slap in the face to Rubina, because aren't they all supposed to be friends? And before we even get more into this, I want to say personally that I take these big brother friendships with a grain of salt. Unless the players have hung out for years since their season ended, they're not real friends. Just because they were in a house together for 3 months, sometimes less because people get eliminated. So just because they were in a house together for 2 months, suddenly they have to be the best of friends. I don't believe that. That doesn't work for me. These fake relationships, usually after the season, are all for clout at best. So I don't think that Tikor and Rubina were supposed to be these best friends, and now Tikor being with Tucker is stabbing Rubina in the back. Sorry, I don't see it that way. Yeah, they worked together on the season. Yeah, they hung out for the first few months after the season. But it's now over a year later. Clearly, they're not as good of friends. It seems as though Tikor and Tucker are better friends than Tikor and Rubina. So anyone who's like, oh my god, Tikor just really stabbed Rubina in the back. If Tikor and Tucker are in an actual relationship, which they're not, I don't believe that right now. But I'm just saying, even if they were, I don't see it as Tikor betrayed a friend. They were all on a reality show together, not these besties for life. Unless, and I can't even think of an example right now off the top of my head of like two people that are like still these best friends after being on Big Brother together. Maybe this is not probably the best example because they're not of the same sex, but I guess maybe Janelle and Kaser are like the besties that I could think of off the top of my head who have been friends for a long time. But I can't think of one of like the same sex off the top of my head, especially not even these recent seasons. Nobody's really like coming to mind. And the last couple seasons don't count because they just ended. They haven't been friends for years. So sorry, I don't believe that if Tikor and Tucker were a relationship, she was slapping, like she was playing Rubina's face. Because they're not like these best friends. Sorry. But they're not even a relationship anyway. Tikor and Tucker were living together as friends. Now, all this speculation happened again this week because it was Tikor's birthday, and there was a picture posted of Tucker and Tikor together, and then Tucker was there for Tikor's birthday when she's blowing out candles on a cake, talking to people on her phone, and Tucker's the one recording it. So people run wild with this, that this has to be her boyfriend, right? Because Tucker's just there. Tucker has gone on live on different occasions to say they're just friends. And I believe that only because now Tikor has found a house. And the thing was, it seemed like she was staying with Tucker because she was in New York looking for a house and a job. And, the job market's the worst it's been since 2009. So it's easy to believe that Tikor was needing some help from a friend, looking for a job and a place to live. Also, last time I talked about this weeks ago, it seemed like Tikor and her man, her ex, were maybe not getting along. But since then, they do still seem to be in contact and getting along. So the speculation there that they're actually broken up, I don't know about that either. I will say it is strange that he's not really being seen with Tikor a lot, and Tucker is. But I am taking it at face value that they're not a real relationship. They're just good friends, and this was Tucker helping a friend. I do think Rubina stirred the pot on social media at one point, acting like she was just so hurt by Tikor being friends with Tucker. I go back to that they weren't real friends in the first place. They were just on a reality show together. And you don't have to stay friends just because you were on a reality show together. I think Rubina was bitter from that breakup. It's come out that Rubina was the one that was broken up with via text as well. And she went to New York to try and fix that relationship. Clearly it didn't work. Anyone that watched this past week's Amazing Race episode, I talked about this yesterday with my Amazing Race review. That couple between Tucker and Rubina was never going to work out. Maybe by the time they recorded that show, they were over each other. I think more so Tucker was already over Rubina. I think Rubina got to a point where she was getting on Tucker's nerves a lot, and that's why he seemed like he didn't really give two shits about her. And then yesterday, I talked about how Rubina wasn't even rooting for Tucker to win the game. So that kind of relationship, either they were already on the rocks or they just suck as partners. Because if you're like jealous that your partner might win the show because Tucker was clearly doing better than Rubina, then you're a crap partner. You're just jealous that he's doing better than you in a competition. Like, come on. Like, they have alliances on that show. Rubina and Tucker should have been the alliance. They're in a relationship. Last thing I'll say, Tucker was seen in a live talking about Rubina. Someone asked him if they're like still friendly with each other, and Tucker basically said he didn't give a shit.
I don't know. I'm friendly with her. I'm her friend. So, I mean, cordial. Whatever I don't even care. Whatever works.
So, it's safe to say the Tucker and Rubina relationship is done, and there's bitter feelings there. I don't know what that means for the Tikor and Rubina friendship, but clearly there's some problems there too. I don't think they needed to like pretend to be friends anyway, as I've said this whole video. But I do think Tucker and Tikor are just friends. That is my opinion right now. It can change, but I'm taking Tucker and Tikor's words at face value. Because if they're in a relationship at this point, this has been speculated for the past month and a half now, why not just come out in the public with it? That's the thing for me. Like, is it because The Amazing Race is still airing? But, like, Rubina just got eliminated, too. So, like, why keep that a secret if you're actually in a relationship? So that's what I question, and it makes me think that they are not in a relationship. Now, maybe after The Amazing Race ends, maybe they'll have an announcement. Until then, though, and if they do, I'll get on here and say I was wrong. I don't mind being wrong in this scenario because I don't think they're in the wrong if they do become a relationship. But yeah, I just don't think they would still be hiding it at this point if they were a real relationship and not just a friendship.